I have a shoe for you.
Hey, I know what we're gonna analyze. The episodes in season 5. Hope it brings you laughter. This is Afterferb. Space adventure. It's an adventure. And oh, hi. Didn't see you there, Andrew and Zach. I guess while we're all here, we might as well, record an episode of Afterferb, the Phineas and Ferb discussion podcast.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's crazy that we all were just here and had free time for an hour, roughly.
Trust me, because when you get to your 20s, finding an hour to hang out with your friends is downright impossible.
We've managed to do it now a number of times.
That's true.
The only thing that's impossible is impossibility. Phineas Ferb.
That's what, honestly, and that's the number one quote that inspires me to keep on making this podcast, actually. And we are approaching the end of the first half of season 1.
Yes.
And we are all the way now up to Haberdasher / out of character. Once again, as we've done a couple times before, we're going to talk about them in reverse order. We're going to start with out of character. And the reason for that is that we may or may not have a super secret special guest coming on to talk about the Haberdasher later
By
on.
the end of this podcast, Alex is going to be like the Mad Hatter. We have a very special guest. Like, as it gets more exaggerated every single episode.
You'd be like a comical character who's primarily associated with hats and Phineas and Ferb.
But that's for the next half hour. Right now we have to start by talking about Baljeet Chronicles Volume 5.
As someone who was a child actor, I'm no longer a child actor, still an actor, just no longer a child. I appreciate this episode about auditioning and getting into character, and like even like the gag at the very end about being an extra, because they do, I don't know, I just enjoyed the premise of this episode, so I knew going into it that I was going to like it.
To be clear, when I was talking about Baljeet Chronicles Volume 5, I was talking about the name of the book that Buford was holding with Baljeet's schedule in it.
Okay, so I have a freeze frame of this book pulled up right now because I wanted to take a look at what exactly is in the Baljeet Chronicles. We have 6 a.m., home in bed, 7:45, home breakfast. I don't know what he does between those. 10 a.m., he does reading. 11:45 is neighborhood science. Then we have lunch. More neighborhood science. I don't know what that is. Astronomy. And then it's hard to make out, but it looks like below that there's furniture.
It should also be noted that there are no times for the last half of these.
Yeah, well, I assume once they get to Phineas and Ferb's, they kind of just chill.
Oh, okay.
But what do we think neighborhood science is?
Yeah, I also paused on this book because I was like, all right, I assume there's going to be some kind of funny gag in here. And honestly, there wasn't really a gag. Like, if I had to be very honestly predicting or guessing what Baljeet's schedule is like, it would probably be something like this. And I think neighborhood science is some completely unrelated, like neighborhood, like a community center thing, extracurricular activity where a group of people gets together and talks about science, some kind of science reading group. I don't know, maybe they're making their way through like Einstein's collected works, something like that.
I have a theory.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's your theory?
My theory is Baljeet lives in the neighborhood and he knows too much about Buford's mold business, life-size mold business. So he just puts neighborhood science in there in case anybody finds the book. They don't find out about the secret operation he has going on with Buford from the canvas suit.
You're saying Baljeet puts that in the book.
Oh, I forgot Buford keeps this. Well, maybe Buford doesn't want to keep it, like he wants to keep it secret from the rest of Danville. So he's just like, neighborhood science.
Yeah, and I guess it would be a neighborhood science because he's making molds of the entire neighborhood.
Exactly.
Maybe he's not even trying to hide it. Maybe Buford's operation is just called neighborhood science.
Oh, yeah.
When I was looking at the front of the book that said Baljeet Chronicles Volume V, for the Roman numeral 5.
Yeah.
I kept on like rewinding it and looking at it because I was like, that looks like it says Volume Y. Or maybe it's just really written in a fancy Roman numeral type of way. But either way, I think this was a missed opportunity to have the cover of the book say The Chronicles of Jeet.
They should have done that.
Do you think it's Volume 5 because it's Season 5?
Oh, yeah. That's probably a subtle nod to that.
But then that implies that Buford divides his summer up into quarters and then is like, all right, this is Volume 1. Or maybe Baljeet just did a lot last summer.
It can also be interpreted as he started this summer and he's already on number 5.
Oh, yeah. It's surprising to me that in both episodes of this like pair, they both make the Nichols joke. Like, it was interesting that nickel joke wasn't spread out across, like, the season.
Yeah. If I had a nickel every time they made a nickel joke in this pair of episodes.
Yes, you all know how it goes, Carl.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that the gag didn't show up sooner in this season. I knew it was going to happen. We talked about before how like all of the TikTok memes, like platypus controlling me and Perry the platypus and the nickel joke would show up. And once again, like I don't think they're overdoing it. I think using it twice is a perfect amount of times to do it. I thought the Linda one is the Linda one in this episode, or it's the Major Monogram one in this episode?
Yeah, Major Monogram one in this episode, the one where he goes, "I know how it goes, Carl," but not the...
Yes.
I think it was really perfect the way they did it, because in the first half, which was Haberdasher, they have the Linda one, and then it's very fresh in your mind watching the Monogram one right after, where it's like, yes, we all know how it goes. Because everyone, even if someone is watching and maybe doesn't know the nickel joke for some reason or another, some moron doesn't know the nickel joke, then they've at least seen it just from the Haberdasher in the first half.
Do you guys think it's possible? Because I feel like this, if I had a nickel joke from Phineas and Ferb, gets quoted so often that, do you think there are kids that are growing up and haven't heard the original expression?
And so
Absolutely.
they're gonna...
Like they've only heard the having two nickels, which isn't a lot.
They absolutely are people like this. I think even like Dan Povenmire was talking at one point about like a friend who's a university professor who had students saying it who didn't know where it was from.
I honestly, people my age, whether they're at both of my jobs or people I'm collaborating with, I'll say like, if I had a nickel, and they just automatically assume it's two nickels. I think for our generation, that's become the thing. And so I wonder if that's going to trickle down.
It's because our generation wouldn't aspire to have more than 10 cents to their name.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to think like before Across the Second Dimension, if I had a nickel was like a saying, was basically just like, then it usually ended with like, I'd be a millionaire, because it happens so many times.
Well, yeah, Buford says it in Wizard of Oz.
There you go.
What does he say?
Because it's like, he goes, "I'm a combo between a lion, tiger, and a bear." And they all go, "Oh my." And he goes, "If I had a nickel for every time I heard that."
Oh yeah, doesn't it show up on screen? Is it like a gag?
No, that's the, oh god, that's Phineas's birthday cliporama.
Oh yes.
With the, whatever, with the, I suppose I could buy a candy bar. Like, that's the gag.
There's so many Phineas and Ferb episodes that have counters on screen.
Also, a lot of nickel references. Is there a nickel-based episode?
If I had a nickel for every episode that included a reference to nickels... Anyway,
let's stop.
Let's talk about. I want to talk about director Catherine Marshall, who wants Baljeet to play Xterra. The way they presented Catherine Marshall, the character in this episode, the way Baljeet kind of called her renowned movie director or whatever, and the way her character was designed, made me think like, oh, is Catherine Marshall like actually a famous movie director that I've never heard of, who is like playing herself?
Like a Kenny Ortega insert.
Yeah, it really looked like that type of thing, like Kenny Ortega, like a Clay Aiken kind of insert, you know? Felt like it was played off like she was an actual guest star movie director. Yeah. But she's not a real person. She's voiced by Lake Bell from Harley Quinn. But they really made her seem real.
I mean, I looked up and I found Kathleen Marshall, but I don't think that's like...
Isn't Kathleen Marshall the Star Wars person?
Kathleen Marshall?
I might be thinking of somebody else.
No, she is an American director, choreographer, and creative consultant, but it's Kathleen.
Kathleen Kennedy. That's, yes. I just had a premonition and suddenly remembered who.
Yes.
That was not a premonition. That was Brian in the chat typing Kathleen
Kennedy.
Hey,
you haven't even confirmed that we have a guest this episode.
Oh my god.
No, I didn't. No, I just revealed that Brian's in the chat.
Oh, Brian could have been in the chat for every episode so far.
That was on me. Why did I do that? Anyway, no, but I liked that character, Catherine Marshall.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, this is jumping all the way to the end of the episode, but when she tells Baljeet that he's too talented to be an extra, but they've cast too many roles that he can't be a lead either, it's kind of sad.
Okay, it is. I was thinking that it is kind of sad. Like, if it was just going to end on that and them going bye and then driving away with Baljeet still standing there, I'd be like, wow, that's sad. But I think Baljeet takes the high road and he's like, hey, I'm actually really good at this. Like, maybe I should take a class. And I think that's really exciting for Baljeet, because he's finding a personality trait outside of like school and outside of, just doing whatever Phineas and Ferb are doing. And I like seeing that. It's kind of like inspiring, which shows that the kids are once again growing up because they're pursuing what they want to pursue, things outside of, whatever.
You can tell this take is coming from an actor in LA because of the stout optimism.
Yeah, you have to be optimistic to be an actor in LA. You're dealt with a lot of grief sometimes.
I gotta say, I don't think Baljeet has a future in the acting business. I'm sorry.
That's why he's taking a
wasn't-
class.
He wasn't acting. He got pranked. He got pranked into thinking the situation was real. I gotta say, I identified with Baljeet in this one because I guess this is apparently, I didn't know this before, apparently Phineas, Ferb, Buford, and Isabella are all acting experts, and they all have the perfect advice to give to Baljeet. And Baljeet is the one friend who's like, acting is hard. It's very hard for me to pretend things that are going on that aren't there. And me, being friends with a lot of actors such as yourselves and not being an actor myself, I was like, Baljeet, I understand exactly what you're going through.
Do we see episodes where Phineas, Ferb, Isabella, and Buford act? I mean, I can think of like Lights, Candace action.
Have they ever
but
put on a play or like a musical?
I mean, Roller Coaster the musical.
Yeah, that's different. Like, I feel like Roller Coaster the musical is like non-diegetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Oh, that would be. Oh, you know what I just thought of? Okay, this is maybe a little bit of a tangent. But you both of you, I think, know that back in like 2019, I watched the entirety of Bizaardvark, and it's not very good. But there is one episode that I think is actually very good.
Yes.
It's called Softball the Musical, where basically.
Oh, you showed me this.
I think I showed you Softball the Musical.
Yeah.
It was basically the two main characters, one of whom is played by a like 14 or 15-year-old Olivia Rodrigo, basically go through an enormous effort to like write a 3-hour musical about softball and put it on just to spare their feelings of their friend who's played by Jake Paul, who they didn't want to tell that they were kicking off the softball team. And honestly, the feat of writing a 3-hour musical in like one night feels like that's a cool thing for Phineas and Ferb to do. If one day they're like, you know what, we're gonna actually like revolutionize like theater or musical theater or something like that. We're gonna cast all our friends and we're gonna put on a Broadway show. There's my pitch for a big idea.
It would be cool if they actually went to New York for that, because we've been talking on this podcast a couple times about how they're like putting the characters in other settings a little more often, like the cruise ship and the water park. Mm-hmm. And they went to Hawaii. I want Phineas and Ferb take Broadway. I think that'd be fun.
Oh, Phineas and Ferb take Broadway.
There'd be so many jokes about like the industry. Like it would give like Flop Stars energy.
It would get, yeah, and then also it would make fun of like New York stereotypes. Like they probably have background incidentals going, "I'm walking here," and like, there'd be like a crossing sign that says "walking here" or something like that.
Yeah. If you're listening, writers, you don't
Phineas and Ferb
have to
take
pay
Broadway.
us. Just
Wait,
hire us.
that sounds awesome.
Oh, I guess we've accidentally come up with a pitch. But anyway, back to Out of Character.
Yes.
We have a very, very special cameo in this episode from the Lumberzacks.
Yeah.
Candace is now a certified Lumberzackinator, listening to Chop 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 on repeat.
I'd like to think that she didn't really either hadn't heard of or didn't care for the Lumberzacks prior to Candace Against the Universe when she yelled stop, stop, stop. And then upon Alexa playing her that song, she became a Lumberzack stan.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, she probably would have been like, "Ooh, I love this song."
I do think it's funny that she doesn't say she's listening to Chop Away at My Heart on repeat. She says she's listening to the Lumberzacks, but that's like the only song that they have.
Windowless Fan?
Well, we don't hear or listen to that in this.
That's true.
For those of you listening at home, I don't know if you knew this, but we actually have a cover of Chop Away at My Heart on YouTube. Search up Chop Away at My Heart by Zaba.
Also, this episode had a couple other callbacks. There was a Flawless Girl billboard, and I thought that was a fun little addition. And then, was this the first time we've seen Roger all season?
I think so.
I think so. I mean, he's definitely been mentioned. He was mentioned in Tropey McTropeface for sure.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think we had seen him. But I also want to talk, going back to this Candace Chop Away at My Heart a little bit.
We're not off the Lumberzacks yet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we're not off the Lumberzacks yet. Well, I guess first thing is this is the first decisive reference to Marla Murphy's Law that the Phineas and Ferb revival has included.
Unless you count the teaser poster where Milo appears in like the audience of the theater.
Unless you count that. And also unless you count like this song, it was also now like on the Candace Against the Universe soundtrack. So it's maybe, it's not quite the same.
It's a Milo song.
It is a Milo thing for sure, first and foremost. But also this Candace listening to music thing allows us to have what is possibly the greatest Perry Lair entrance sequence of all time.
Yes, I
wrote this down.
That is my favorite Perry Lair entrance this season.
It was so funny.
Yeah. It was, man, I can't think of it. Rung a bell very vaguely. I feel like they've maybe done something like this before, where the Perry Lair entrance kind of like slows down time, and there's something that should take way, way, way longer than it actually does. It's kind of like, glass breaks, orders a new one online, gets the rush delivery, shows up at the door. I was looking on Twitter, And I don't remember which writer it was, unfortunately. It might have been John Colton Berry. It might have been someone else who said that the original pitch for this lair entrance, the scene was actually even longer. And I don't know what they possibly could have added that they didn't. I don't know if maybe he like broke a second glass or something, or if he took out the trash also to get rid of the evidence. But apparently, as they were writing this, they were cracking themselves up, and I would like to see the long cut of it as well, the Snyder cut of Perry breaks a glass.
I'm sure that'd be very funny, but I do feel like the hurried nature of it added to the joke for me. The fact that like it's so many steps, but the guy's just there immediately.
I feel like the only thing that could have made that joke, like, okay, the joke was already great. I think that pitch, I would have liked to have seen one more gag. I think one more gag could have been enough before kind of going past the point of it being too much. But I thought it was a great length. I mean, even before the gag of it getting longer and more things going awry, I was already a fan of banging on glasses that make the Perry the Platypus theme.
Yeah, that would have been like the baseline lair entrance.
That's already really funny.
Episode.
And then it broke. And then I feel like the show doesn't use whip pans that much. But I loved the usage of the like as it was cutting to Candace and back. And then ordering it, and then the guy being loud. I think one more gag would have been not too much, but just the right amount. But my favorite entrance this season, easily.
I thought it was perfect. We see Candace, like, it's definitely been a thing before where she's like on the phone or trying to sleep or whatever, and that makes it so she can't see what Phineas and Ferb are doing. But to have it also prevent her from seeing Perry was a fun twist.
I mean, when you're just grooving out to the lumbersacks that much, you can really just get locked in.
Yeah, I mean, with the amount of times we've listened to Chop Away in My Heart in this apartment, who knows who's snuck in and out.
Oh, man. That explains why I keep losing all my stuff.
We also got a little bit of a nod towards Buford going to film school in the future.
I forgot that was a thing. Enact Your Age.
Yeah, he's got that assistant there. He's got that, like, I can use it for my real thing going on. He's already got his eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
Great portrayal of PAs, by the way.
With Shane.
With Shane.
Yeah, he's just a guy.
But also when, like, Baljeet's like, see, it only ate Shane. Like, I've been lucky enough to be a PA on sets that, like, have been great.
Have you been eaten by a necro slug before?
No, almost one time, but no. But I was going to say, like, it is kind of a running joke in the industry that PAs are like bottom of the barrel, kind of like the way they talk about Kenneth on 30 Rock as the NBC page.
Yeah.
And I loved that gag of, see, it only ate Shane, and then even it ending with Shane, like, being driven off into the necro slug.
Yeah.
We have another very interesting Doofenshmirtz backstory. I think we find out a little bit about his high school days. We find out that he was voted least recognizable. And they took a picture of a traffic cone to represent him.
Traffic cone with a dent in it.
A traffic cone with a dent in it. Did either of you win any high school superlatives?
Oh, I have a story. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Go ahead.
Here's my story. When I was in high school, I was really good friends with a lot of people who were the grade above me. And there was a category that year called Most Likely to be an SNL cast member. And a lot of people wrote my name thinking I was a senior. But I wasn't, and so they gave it to my best friend, Aiden. And then everyone was like, well, next year when there's that superlative, like, you're going to get it easily. And then next year, they not only didn't have that superlative.
It was a traffic cone with a dent in it?
They had no superlatives in my senior yearbook. And I'm very bummed about that because I was really looking forward to the senior year superlatives.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Andrew, how about you?
I was in French club, and I appeared in the group photo of the French club.
Nice. Did you not have, like, superlatives in your yearbook?
I don't remember. If we did, I wasn't part of them. I do remember there was this one kid that we all voted as most athletic who was, like, didn't play any sports and, like, exclusively played League of Legends. I don't think he won, but we got at least a couple dozen people to vote for him, which I thought was really funny.
That.
Yeah, I also did not win any superlatives, but I did actually, we had a Facebook group with all the kids in my grade. It was like 180 kids or something. And people would just, like, post random stuff in there. And I had a campaign because I wanted to win the award most likely to complain if not nominated.
Actually, that award goes to Zach Timson.
Yeah. Okay, look.
But actually, I lost. I did not win that award, and I complained about it.
Did someone else get that award?
Yeah, a different person won that award instead of me.
Well, that award's kind of a paradox because whoever wins it won't complain.
They might.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I don't know.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah, so you can never know. You can never know, but Yeah, I guess we're not. None of the three of us are special at all. That's what we learned. But Doofenshmirtz is special because he looks like a traffic cone.
Also, great reveal of the paper mache head.
Yes, I love that they have the entire like Perry gets trapped, and then it's just a gigantic zoom out of like you're wondering what this paper mache thing behind me is.
Also, love that it's in front of a Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated step and repeat. That kind of feels similar to the Hollywood theme of the episode as a whole.
Yeah, I really liked the gag of the faces getting replaced with the unremarkable faces. It's like Ditto from Pokemon.
It makes them all, especially Ferb, look like the characters from that video game Backyard Baseball. I don't know if y'all ever played that.
Backyard Baseball 2003. We play this at the summer camp I'm teaching at right now.
But my brother and I played it all the time as kids, and now he works for the Pirates and I work for the Dodgers. So, boom.
Yeah, I think this is a fun twist on like I don't remember exactly what it's called, the Uglyonator or something. You zap them and someone becomes really ugly. This one doesn't make them ugly. It just makes them like very unremarkable. And I have to say that the way all those faces looked, including Ferb's, was like oddly satisfying as an art style. I
agree.
Like
there was something cool about it.
I would watch a show where everyone kind of looked like that, like two little dots for the eyes.
Have you heard of the show called Charlie Brown? It's insane.
Ooh.
I like when Ferb gets zapped with this face thing.
I am Ferb.
And Phineas just goes, dude, I don't know who you are, but great Ferb impression. Our roommate Ben made the joke that's probably what the production team told David Arago Jr. when he stepped into the room as Ferb.
I don't know who you are, but great Ferb impression.
Yeah. He was just walking by when they were making the Phineas and Ferb effect.
Yeah. Baljeet has this song in the middle. A little fun Baljeet song that kind of starts a little bit rap-like.
Yeah.
And he's pointing out everything that is basically wrong with his set. He's like, that's not real. I can't immerse myself. And I'm inclined to once again, for the third time in the history of Afterferb, point out that this reminds me of Nathan Fielder. It's very the rehearsal coded. He's there's that one episode early on in the rehearsal where he's kind of implying like, how am I supposed to immerse myself in this fake house if there's a sticker on this bell pepper that was allegedly supposed to have been planted in the ground?
Yeah. Doesn't he at one point in that show to try to relate closer to Captain Sully, the pilot who landed the plane in the Hudson, like recreate Sully's life from birth, and he's briefly like dressed up as a baby in a gigantic crib?
Yes, that is a thing that happens. It is incredible.
Watch the rehearsal.
Quick 5-second story. I met Core Skeet from the first episode of the rehearsal at a swing dance club in New York. Very nice guy.
Cheap chicks in the city.
Cheap chicks in the city.
No, just a singular. Cheap chick in the city.
Oh, cheap chick in the city.
Cheap chick in the city.
Cheap chick in the city.
This is so annoying to people who haven't seen the rehearsal.
One person who gets this reference.
They do the gag and basically they say it back and forth to each other 7 times or something, which is exactly what we're doing.
Brian is the one person.
But yeah, the episode kind of, eventually escalates with the what's it called, what's the slug?
Necro slug. It looks like it's something out of Club Penguin.
The necro slug basically getting cranked up to an 11 and wreaking danger all around and eating Shane. Then we find out at the end that it was actually all a setup to get Baljeet to show emotion and act, and that this was all staged.
I know in our one of our previous episodes we were noting who saw the twist coming for Lord of the Firesides. Did you guys catch on that they were faking it?
No.
Yeah, I was pretty sure.
I did pretty quickly.
Wow.
I gotta say.
Way to make me feel dumb.
No, the only episode I remember where Phineas and Ferb accidentally get into genuine danger, apart from like the longer specials, is Submarine Sandwich Submarine. So I was like, yeah, this is weird. I feel like they wouldn't, they wouldn't be so reckless.
Don't they also get into danger in the like the supercomputer? Wait, no, it's the one where they make the like escape thing that they can't escape, and then it like tries to kill them. Oh,
yes.
I might be mixing two episodes together.
And then they just outsmart it.
But yeah, it is rare for that to happen.
Yeah, I this one I caught on. The Fireside one was definitely trickier. I really didn't know what. I was like, something's fishy here, but I didn't know what. This one I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a setup.
Also, there's a Gravity Falls reference in this episode, and I love it.
Yeah. So the little gnome that they showed during the song, that's just like a gnome from Gravity Falls.
That's a gnome from
right?
Gravity Falls. I looked to Julia across the room to see if I was getting confirmation, and she nodded. And I went, great, that's a Gravity Falls reference.
Yeah, we know Dan Povenmire and Alex Hirsch are friends, so it tracks.
I love Gravity Falls, and I never noticed that until other people pointed out. And I would love to see a genuine like Phineas and Ferb Gravity Falls crossover. Would be so cool because they're both like summertime shows. Like so like go on adventure is like different kind of style obviously, but I feel like Phineas and Dipper would get along so well.
Have you seen the theme song takeover that they had Grunkle Stan do of the Phineas and Ferb theme?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
As you can see, there's a dog in a building. Yeah,
that's the closest we've gotten, and that was great.
But alas, it turns out Baljeet has too much star quality, as you pointed out before, Andrew. So Catherine Marshall refuses to cast him in the movie.
Catherine Marshall.
But we do. There's one thing I want to point out. Catherine says, "Is this set for sale?" And Phineas goes, "No, but you can have it."
Well, no, but
yeah.
Well, no, but you can have it. That's such a funny joke.
I do think this was a bit of a missed opportunity to have Catherine offer like $1 million, and then Phineas and Ferb are like, "We can use this to pay off all the debts from all our previous projects and have plenty left over for the rest of the summer."
Yeah, I gotta say, when you take Roller Coaster and then this episode, I think it shows you the starkest possible contrast in how Phineas's personality has changed.
Because in the first episode, as they're plummeting to Earth, he just goes, "We should have charged more."
Yeah, I think that would have been a great joke, Alex, but I also feel like it was already very funny in its current form, I feel. Because it's kind of highlighting how silly it is that Phineas and Ferb are just, like, not interested.
Yeah, no, it is funny already, but I feel like it was a kind of a chance to put to rest forever the whole, like, how do they fund everything?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh, they've just been in extreme debt this entire time.
Isn't it just with Lindana's money?
That was our theory, but I want to give a quick shout out. If you guys are looking for another Phineas and Ferb podcast to listen to, there's a great one called Implications of Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, these guys are great. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's still active, but it's these guys from Australia. They basically go episode by episode trying to theorize how Phineas and Ferb like are actually pulling these things off. And I believe their leading theory is that when they make the Shooting Star milkshake bar, it just becomes like passive income for them because it's visited by everyone in the galaxy, and then they just get like checks sent to them or something like that.
I think Dan has also pointed to like the roller coaster thing, like, oh, they charged like the roller coaster for the roller coaster, and that's kind of just been they've kind of just been rolling on that ever since.
Yeah, that's enough to build like
Ferb, I know what we're gonna do today. Building. We're gonna invest in a Roth IRA.
The only other thing I want to point out about this episode is I just think there were a lot of really cool action shots in this. I thought the storyboard artists went kind of hard.
Yeah,
especially the scenes where like Baljeet's fighting the Necro Slug, just anything in that actual film set itself. Yeah. Just thought it looked really good
stuff.
I have one more question, which is, of course, Baljeet is too good to play Xterra in this movie, but who's getting cast as Xterra instead of Baljeet?
Django Brown.
Zach Underwood.
You think his career is not successful, so he's just an extra in a film now?
I thought Xterra was also the name of one of the main characters.
No, the joke was that it was a typo. It meant to say extra. And I guess Zach has a retired musician, so yeah, that makes a degree of sense.
I think it's got to be Pedro.
See, we know Pedro can fit into any role because he's able to change his ethnicity.
Yeah, which he has done canonically.
Or he just got really tan this summer.
Got really tan.
That's it for Out of Character. We're going to be back before you can say a very, very long word, and we're going to be talking about the Haberdasher.
Sesquipedalian?
Hey, do you have a hat? It's blue and green and red. Do you have a hat to put it on your head? Oh, hey, guys. Didn't see you there. Looks like we're back for the second half of this episode. And is that a fourth person in this call? Is that the writer of iCarly and Inanimate Insanity and the owner of the original I Have a Hat for That t-shirt that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world? Brian?
Two of those things are true, yes. Hello, happy to be here.
No, Brian did not write for iCarly. That one was fake.
Okay, I literally just texted the chat saying, "Did you write for iCarly?" Because with like 4 question marks.
Nope.
No, but Brian did write The Genius of Phineas and Ferb's Ending, the YouTube video essay.
With 3.6 million views.
Oh, you had it right on the dome. There you go. Yeah, a video that is now woefully dated, as everyone tells me each day in the comments. They're like, do you know that Phineas and Ferb has continued past this point? I'm like, I think someone that went to the time to make
Brian,
this video.
How did you not anticipate that was coming when you first made that video?
Yeah,
Seriously. No, but honestly, very excited to have Brian on this podcast.
You should change the the title to be like the lack of foresight of Phineas and Ferb's ending.
Yeah.
It's still an ending is still an ending, even if you write a next chapter. So that's what I have to say on that. There you go.
Very, very true. Yeah. Well, very, very excited to chat about this episode with you, Brian. Why don't you talk a little bit about your history with Phineas and Ferb, you're becoming a fan, and the whole shebang.
Oh my goodness!
And maybe a reason why you're on this particular episode of Afterferb.
Sure, we can get into
We'll
that.
get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, along with everyone with a pulse, watching High School Musical 2 when it premiered on Disney Channel and this mysterious surprise show that aired after. But I think what really left an impression on me, honestly, was just the relentless advertising of Phineas in February, where they like aired all the episodes like back to back in the month. I was like, okay, what is the deal with this show that then they're pushing really hard? And I think the episode that really sold me on it was It's About Time, because of the Peter the Panda plot, which I thought was the funniest thing in the world. And I still do. And just, yeah, I've loved the show forever. I remember, finding out when Last Day of Summer was airing. I think, similar to several people's experience, it seems to be, where it's like, oh, maybe I wasn't keeping up within every episode, went through, started watching again from the beginning to get prepared for the finale, which is when I first kind of realized, oh, wait, Candace and Doofenshmirtz, really, there's this parallel between the two of them. They're kind of the secret main characters. I wonder if the finale will end up addressing that in any way, and it turned out it very much did, which is what I did my video about. And yeah, I mean, it's an amazing show, and I'm really glad to have it back, honestly. I had my reservations because of how much I enjoy the ending, but it turns out when, you have the same team bringing back a show that's really strong, it's going to continue to just be really strong. So who would have thunk?
And I guess we can we don't have to bury the lead in talking about the Haberdasher. So some of you may have seen last summer, sometime in July, Dan Poffenmeyer posted a video, I think just on YouTube, because it's like 13 minutes long.
Yeah.
Basically, he stitched together a recording of himself, Swampy, Martin Olson, and Olivia Olson writing a song for the revival called "I Have a Hat for That." It was out of context. We didn't really know what kind of episode it would be in, what the story was, who would be singing it. But the video went surprisingly in detail, and to the point where we pretty much found out all the lyrics and more or less what the song sounded like. And Brian, you were planning a visit or somehow organized a visit to Disney TVA the day after that video came out. So I don't know if you want to talk a bit about your experience.
Not quite the day after, maybe about like a week and a half or so after, but it was definitely a very fresh video. But yeah, no, I happened to be in the area around that time, and thank you all for letting me stay with you during that time as well, for helping make this possible. Yeah, it was there for some touring stuff that we do for the show Nan Insanity.
Yeah, if you're listening at home and you need a place to stay in LA, just hit up me and Zach.
Open.
Whoa, no, wait, hold up. Like, let us talk about this first.
Sorry, continue, Brian.
I mean, you heard it here first. It's an open invitation. But anyway, yeah. So for this specific situation, yeah, I had a friend that works at Disney TVA, and I asked if I'd be able to come see it, because I always wanted to take a look there, and they were nice enough to let me come along. And I realized the night before, I got this crazy idea. You know what I should do? Because I loved that video that had come out, the songwriting session for I Have a Hat for That. I thought it was just such a cool behind-the-scenes peek, like that we never quite get to see in just that much detail of actual fly-on-the-wall brainstorming session for them coming up with one of the songs for like seeing Michael Angelo paint the Sistine Chapel type deal for a fan,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was just so cool. So I was like, I for whatever reason was like, you know what? Let me transcribe all of the lyrics from the song that they work out in the video, order a custom-made t-shirt, and rush it to come tomorrow right before I went over to go to Disney TVA, and I'll just wear it. I'm not going to draw attention to it, but I'll just have it just as just as a fun bit, if for nothing else, just for myself. But yeah, I went in there. It was really fun to take a look around, and I happened to see Kim Robertson, who's just a really awesome writer on Phineas and Ferb, and was talking to her about how excited I was that the show was coming back. And yeah, then she noticed the shirt and was like, "Oh, hold on, wait, the other writers have to see this, and Dan Swampy have to see it," because they were all like, "How do you even know the lyrics of this? Like, the song hasn't even come out yet." And I was like, "Oh, Dan like put it up on YouTube, like the songwriting session behind it." They were like, "Okay, we have to come to take you into the inner sanctum to go see everybody." So I went in, I see Dan, Swampy, Olivia, and Martin. They were all super, super nice. And yeah,
they're great people.
I just walk in and Kim's like, "Oh, look at what's on his shirt." And there's a brief pause as they're looking at it. And then Martin bursts out laughing.
Ha!
Yes.
He has
like that.
the best laugh. It's usually delightful.
And they all start singing the song. It truly was the most gratifying conclusion to this elaborate bit that I had set up. So yeah, they definitely appreciated it. Yeah, and I just told them how, much of an honor that it was to meet them. So this song in this episode definitely has a very special place in my heart, even months before having actually seen it.
I think the only way you could possibly top this, Brian, is if at the end of this recording session, you turn on your camera to reveal a shirt of the transcript of this episode of Afterferb.
Actually, I think the only way he can really top this is with a hat.
A top hat.
A top hat.
All right, we have one more thing I want to say about this song, though. Brian, have you gotten the chance to compare the lyrics on your shirt to the final version and see if there are any small differences?
I have my shirt right here, don't worry. I was comparing and contrasting between the two versions. The main change that I had noticed, the lyrics that they'd originally written, they had, "But you look like a man who likes fedoras." And then clearly, at some point, they must have remembered that not only is Perry not a man, but actually the enemy of the platypus is man. So it would have been it would have been very controversial had that been included. So instead it becomes, "But you look like a fan of the fedora."
I also think that flows better just if you're singing it as well. Like, that rolls off the tongue better.
Yeah, gotta get that alliteration in there.
Yeah.
Man, the face that Perry makes when he's like, he sings that line and he's just like nodding, looking a little bit upset that his fedora's destroyed.
Also,
it got to me.
I don't know if it was just that look, but I think when Doof bites off the hat and Perry crawls to hide, he makes a little sound.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Andrew, I specifically made note of Perry's expressions in this episode, particularly with the Haberdasher, because it's like, those, the soft, sad little nods in response to him being a fan of the fedora, like you said, that playful smile when he's posing with the sombrero, or that look of genuine concern he has when the Haberdasher, like, misses his shot, hitting Doofenshmirtz at the end. Because I think what this whole plot line made me realize is that it's really not very often we get to see Perry meaningfully interact with someone that's friendly to him.
Right.
He's always
at least not while he's in agent form.
Exactly. Because, he's always doing the blank stare at home with the family, and then he's angry or annoyed fighting Doof. And even with Monogram getting the briefing, he's, all serious. So seeing him spend time with this guy who was just nice and happy to be around him was a sweet change of pace.
Well, it's also kind of like when we saw him playing video games with Stacy earlier in the season. And how he scoots over because he wants to protect her, and he tips his cap. It's fun to see him, Perry, just being like a person,
I also like that it implies that he's at least slightly materialistic, because you imagine Perry as being, this high morals, get the job done, get in, get out, and wouldn't necessarily need to draw attention to his fashion. But when his hat gets destroyed, he's like, dude, that's my whole thing.
I mean, Andrew, just imagine if all the clothes you own were completely ruined one day. Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
Wait, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't take it as much as materialistic as it is just I think he's sentimental, because the idea of if he was materialistic, he'd want to trade up, as it were, for a better hat, but he just loves that hat. He wants it back.
Also, real quick, is this guy the OWCA hat guy?
Yeah, they call him the Haberdasher.
Here's what cracks me up about this. The implications of this episode are that this guy makes millions of types of hats, and every single animal is like, "No, I'll just go with the fedora."
Seriously. He's like, one of these days.
He must be so frustrated. He's constantly coming up with.
Can one of you just get any of the others? Why are you always wearing the fedora?
Yeah, it's easier for him to get a giraffe in a hat than to get that hat on a giraffe.
Look, he should have taken Stacy here. Stacy would have gotten a non-fedora.
Oh yeah, Stacy would eat.
He has a surprisingly enthusiastic attitude, given the fact that, he comes up with all these brilliant designs that just go unused, and he kind of keeps to himself all the time.
I think he just sings this song to literally every single agent who comes in to get a hat, including the "You look like a fan of the fedora" line. But I will say, for an episode that focuses so much on hats, it really is a terrible shame. Not even a reference to Wendy Stinglehopper and her really big hat. Honestly,
this would have been the episode.
Yeah.
This is a crime against me. We gotta, if not now, when? Seriously.
Now, if Wendy came to visit the Haberdasher, then I think she'd be very
she'd be like,
interested.
just give me your biggest one. Give me your biggest one, Alan Cumming.
Like, this dude needs to expand outside of OWCA.
Yeah. If you're listening in the comments, can you just write a fan fiction about the Haberdasher and Wendy Stinglehopper?
So Phineas and Ferb are hanging out with Mom this afternoon, which is nice. Although we don't really know what they're doing. We kind of just see them like driving in the car somewhere.
Yeah.
So we get an interesting dynamic going on in the backyard. We get Isabella, we get Baljeet, and we get Buford, who doesn't want to do the hot tub with just the two of them.
Yeah.
And I gotta be like, you know what? Of course you don't. Like, Phineas and Ferb have to be there for that.
I really quickly want to say, this is a nice continuation of what's established in the first episode of this season when the mom's like, I want to spend more time with the boys. Like, even though we don't get to see it, this is continuing that.
It's also a continuation of the first episode where Buford has a blue couch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think part of what really helps this episode stand out is something y'all have mentioned a few times throughout this podcast, and it's the fact you get such a distinct feel from either having different characters grouped together or just certain characters missing. Like, y'all have made the point of how episodes where it's just Phineas and Ferb and the family without the rest of the backyard gang have a different kind of vibe that, like, to me at least, very much evokes the feeling of season 1. So it's really fun to see an episode where it's the inverse and it's the backyard gang without Phineas and Ferb. So it's kind of almost Last Day of Summer vibes a little bit, where it's like, yeah, you see Isabella, Baljeet, and Buford alone together, especially because in both episodes they actually kind of don't get along for a good chunk of it.
Yeah, it's like Phineas and Ferb are kind of the glue that holds these friends together.
Really,
and they don't know how to act, or they act completely differently when they're not around. Like Isabella at her appearance at the very top of the episode where she drops the whole act.
Yeah.
You can't see us like this.
She's like, I'm literally only doing this for Phineas. I wouldn't react like this naturally.
And Ferb.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Right, and Ferb.
I want to bring this up, the whole and Ferb thing. So yes, it's very easy to just take this as like, oh, it's a funny joke about how Isabella is into Ferb. Sorry, it's about how Isabella's into
Whoa!
Whoa! Hey!
I don't give me any like Ferbella haters.
You call yourself a Phineas and Ferb fan?
No, that was a slip. Anyway, I think it's easy to take it as just being a reference to the fact that Isabella's thinking about Phineas first and foremost. And when the first time Baljeet said and Ferb, that's simply all I thought of it as. But we mentioned before, there's been like little hints of like Ferb Jeet going on in the season.
Wait, when did we mention this?
In the episode where they go luging. Yeah. Ferb like rescues Baljeet, who's like charmed by it. Something about the way, I'm probably looking way too much into this, but something about the way Baljeet said and Ferb the second time made me be like, is Baljeet thinking about Ferb first and foremost?
Or, hear me out, they're just like good friends. Because Ferb has the skills to like save someone from a luge. I don't think Ferb's gonna not save one of his friends from the luge.
Let Andrew have his headcanon.
Listen, if Wendy Stinglehopper's not around, let's just give Baljeet Ferb. That's what I'm saying.
You know, I'm saying like, yeah, I don't think Andrew's saying that it's necessarily reciprocal, but maybe Baljeet is kind of into him a little bit. I could see it. I could absolutely see it.
You would be really bad for Baljeet is if like in high school temporarily Ferb and Wendy Stinglehopper are a thing.
Oh no. All right, if you're in the comments, just write like an Act Your Age era fan fiction about Ferb and Wendy Stinglehopper.
You know what? If you're in the comments, just write any fanfic about Wendy Stinglehopper. Like, we just want to hear your Wendy Stinglehopper takes.
We just gotta fill up this comment section with more Wendy Stinglehopper than has ever existed on the face of this planet.
Hashtag more Wendy Stinglehopper.
I want to make it so when you search Wendy Stinglehopper on Google, you find Christmas Vacation and this episode of Afterferb.
If you memify Wendy Stinglehopper enough, then eventually you're going to get a pack of 2 episodes that each has a reference to her, just like the Nicholas show. So
There you go.
Yeah.
It's honest work.
Honestly, all I need is a mention. I'm gonna be so satisfied. But anyway, so Dr. Doofenshmirtz is probably in his most disgusting form of all time. In this
Hated
episode.
it.
And they
honestly,
brace you
like,
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do brace you for it. The thing is, like, with the Candace suit, like that was like funny gross. This is just gross. I honestly like this is actually a part of the episode that made it worse for me, was that he just was so terrible to look at.
The jingle told us, Alex, it was going to be a little bit gross in there.
Yeah, and
My
the
Grandma
jingle was
Carl
correct. It was gross. I was grossed out and I didn't like it.
I was not a fan of the doof visuals.
Okay, it's definitely cursed, but the episode I feel like is aware that it's cursed. Like even Doofenshmirtz, like after a few minutes, is like he thanks Perry for getting him out of it. At the end of the
Yeah,
episode.
it's like the same with the
Yeah.
Candace suit, because it's like they know it's disturbing. Because Doof has that line, it's like, I hope it didn't hit anything disturbing. Like they're aware, but I feel like the Candace suit, I'm like, haha, that's funny and disturbing. And this one, I'm like, oh god, that's just disturbing.
I enjoy the distinct performance Dan Povenmire gives for this highly evolved version of Doof. I think it adds to matching the creepy visual.
It sounded like he just had like crackers in his mouth while he was recording all the lines of
It kind of
dialogue.
does.
Oh, yeah. Also, speaking of performances, we haven't talked about Alan Cumming yet, and I think terrific voice actor, terrific. Also, you can tell that they based a little bit of the character design off of Alan Cumming as well.
Oh, completely. It's just
I was
him,
gonna
basically.
say, I really like that they introduced a character who kind of looks like he's kind of oddly proportioned. To me, that's one thing that I think like the Phineas and Ferb art style excels at, and one of the reasons why I think like the character designs for Phineas and Ferb are a little bit stronger than the other series, and like like Milo and Hamster and Gretel. It's like if you make them look a little bit weird, a little bit more cartoony, I think they have a little bit more memorability to them, and I think they achieved that with this guy.
It's also always just so fun when the special guest star of the episode gets to sing, not only because inevitably they're great singers, but I think there's just an additional layer of enjoyment to be had imagining someone who's not used to performing the truly wacky and random songs that the series has, having to kind of bend to the will of this strange little universe.
Like Michael Bublé.
Yeah.
Like Alan Cumming is a Broadway singer. He's a Broadway icon, and I like that the song that they gave him had more of that show tune, da-da-da feel, rather than like a rock song or a pop song that's in Phineas and Ferb's, usual collection. Like this felt appropriate to Alan Cumming's talents, kind of similar to Michael Bublé earlier in the season.
I know Phineas and Ferb has always tackled a lot of genres, but I feel like this season, these 10 episodes so far, they have a really good range.
Oh, yes, completely.
Brian, I don't know if you may know this or you may not. I'm just asking because I know you were at the studio around the time relating to this song.
Sure.
Do you have any idea if they knew that Alan Cumming was going to be singing this at that point when it was being written?
I was not made privy to that information, but it is interesting since I think like you kind of bring up the vibe that the song has, because we talked about before how like besides that one line, the demo has all the same lyrics as the final version of the song, but the song definitely feels very different in the version of the episode.
Yeah.
Because I think the one Olivia Olson sings, to me at least, almost like has this slower, gentle, kind of even mysterious vibe that kind of made me think the Haberdasher might be a more dramatic character, but as it turns out, he's like this super enthusiastic and passionate guy.
So do you think that maybe they were waiting to see like who the voice actor was going to be and then tailor the song and maybe even the genre to whoever that voice actor was?
Possibly. I don't know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be curious. Yeah. Because I think, at least for something like Tropey McTropeface, I think that was very much done in mind for
very much a Michael Bublé song.
Yeah. To the point. Yeah. I love how Dan says that like, Bublé texted him like, you would have loved to have been on a fly on the wall in the meeting with my manager when I told him what I really wanted to do at this point in my career, sing a song called Tropey McTropeface. So I enjoy the vision of these guest stars having to talk to their team about the ridiculous thing they're gonna do.
In regards to this song, at the end he says like, I don't sell shoes, that's next door. I was thinking what would be fun
The Alka Cobbler
would be if like for the how they show a scene or a song during the credits, it would have been fun kind of in a similar route, like instead like how they do Rusted for Busted, if it was a completely different character named the Cobbler who was singing I have a shoe for you, and it's like a version of that.
voiced by Adam Sandler.
I have a shoe for you.
It's possible that could have been a bit of improv from Alan Cumming, because in the demo version they just say like, but I don't do shoes, but they add on but that's two doors down. So I think
I would have liked to
have
I would have liked to have heard "I Have a Shoe for You" in the credits with the.
Oh, either way, it's canon now. Like, that's the lore.
Did Alan Cummings' ad-lib completely change the lore of Alka?
Very well might have.
Yeah, it's fun. It is 2 doors down, and yet at the end, the entire building kind of folds up, and Alan Cummings carries it away.
See, this is why he can help Phineas and Ferb with something, because everything he makes will just go away in an instant.
Also, hang on. Speaking of his building going away, he said "Happy Birthday" when his building went away, and I don't know what. Is it Perry's birthday?
Oh,
is that a reference?
I
to him
have an
saying
explanation.
Earlier? Yes, please. I want to hear it.
So when the Haberdasher first appears in the episode, he's so excited to see Agent P, and he asks, "Is it my birthday?" And then he adds, "Oh, birthdays are so hard to keep track of," which is already really funny because he seems to genuinely think that today it could be his birthday, but it actually is just setting up the fact that he can't keep track of birthdays. So then you have this subtle gag at the end where he wishes Perry a happy birthday.
See, I heard the first half of that joke. I didn't hear the second half because I was eating a chicken wing.
I only caught it on the rewatch. It's very subtle.
Okay.
Wait, I didn't catch that. That is very funny now that you.
That's a really good
explained it to
joke.
me, because the only thing that I thought of was, is that a Frosty the Snowman reference?
I also thought it was a Frosty.
That's what I thought at first too. Yeah.
Winter time's fun. Follow me.
By the way, real quick, check out Brian's Christmas movie podcast, Checking It Twice.
Yes. Yeah, and there may even be a special guest on one of the episodes.
Ooh.
Yeah, really special and really handsome.
Alan
too.
Cumming?
Oh. Alan Cumming is very handsome.
So let's talk a bit about specifically why Perry needs a new hat. And it's not just that Moth Doof eats the hat, but also that, to quote Major Monogram, if the microchip in your fedora has been damaged, our entire security system could be compromised. Report to the Haberdasher to get a new hat with a new chip, basically, more or less. So we have once again an instance of, all right, I guess this is something that puts Alka's entire operation in danger.
Yeah, it's consistent with Chip to the Vet, where it's a similar concern.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that in that, because I went back to watch the vet episode also, because I was curious about how the continuity lined up, because in that episode Monogram says that Perry being chipped could put the entire operation of Alka in danger, not just because his host family could track him, but so could his enemies. But in this episode, we established Perry's hat is chipped, so there is a chip out there. So it's like, oh, then that's going to compromise Alka's entire security system. So I guess the takeaway here is that giving up your privacy poses no risks, so long as you're giving it directly back over to Alka, trust in Alka.
Maybe they figure that Doofenshmirtz isn't wise enough to put together that a hat would be chipped. But if he knows that it's like from the vet, he'd be like, ah.
I think like I really think it is like, oh, the chip is fine as long as it's us. What confuses me is, all right, so now you've lost your hat and you aren't chipped in this moment. But it's really that much of a danger that like you need to have a hat with a chip in it every single second that you're working. Otherwise, the entire operation could completely fall apart. They lose me a little bit.
Do you think when you wore a fez in that one episode that Alka was just like tearing their hair out? Like, where did he go?
Wait, that's the only other time the Haberdasher has sold a hat that wasn't a fedora, was that fez in that one episode.
And he does try to push it on him again, because he mentions the fez, and Perry's like, no thanks.
I already did that one.
One time. Yeah. That was one time.
Yeah. Andrew, do you have another like Alka thing to point out?
Yeah, okay, this is not really related to this episode, but this is in response to a comment we got on when we were discussing More Than an Intern. We were debating whether or not Carl had his driver's license. A commenter by the name of Jason Breslin pointed out that in Phineas and Ferb Save Summer, we know that Carl does have his driver's license because he's seen driving Monogram and Perry to the Alka graduation. And I barely remember the events of Phineas and Ferb Save Summer. Like, I couldn't remember the scene they were talking about, so I rewatched it.
All I remember is that they save summer.
Yeah. I rewatched it the other day, and it brought up another revelation about a previous piece of Alka lore that we had talked about on this podcast, which is, how can Alka have to renew their license? Aren't they a government organization? And I think the answer is possibly no, because at the end of Phineas and Ferb Save Summer, they have this whole thing where Colonel Contraction gets ousted from the organization. The organization itself shuts down. And then they make a new organization with the same name, of which Major Monogram is just the head. So I think if you consider that there could be a turning point in Phineas and Ferb lore where the Auca in the majority of seasons 1 through 4 is a government-funded agency, but then after Colonel Contraction leaves and Monogram is in charge, it is now privatized.
Wow. That's
well
it.
pointed out, Andrew. I love that. I love that special. It's super
Well
underrated.
done. Well done.
Yeah.
And shout out to that commenter for getting me to rewatch that episode, because I could barely remember any of the details.
Was it
from
good?
It's good. It's not the best special of season 4, but it's definitely a fun
Is
one.
that the episode that has Obama?
Yes.
It does have Barack Obama
The
in it.
pretzels.
Nice.
And it's a special episode because he's yelling at his sister again.
Yeah. There's some good jokes in there for sure.
I thought for a second that Obama was yelling at his sister again.
Must be a special president. He's yelling at his sister.
Oh, no.
If I had a nickel for every time Barack Obama was in a Disney Channel show, but not played by Barack Obama, well, you know how it goes.
Wait,
what was the other one?
What's the other one?
Hannah Montana. They just show like the back of him.
Do we know that wasn't him?
Yes, we do.
You never know. Michelle Obama was on iCarly.
Michelle Obama has danced with Perry the Platypus.
Yeah.
She has. That's true.
She walked the platypus walk. I have one more thing that I want to... I guess this isn't my final question, but it's a thing I want to point out. Because I'm still kind of torn on this. They don't really show the invention that Buford, Baljeet, and Isabella cobbled together.
Yeah.
Now it's three separate things that look bad, and then we put them together, and it's great. We just see a little bit. We see like this weird foot thing. We see this heart arrow. We see this wheel. And honestly, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't show it. I wanted to see what they put together. I don't know if you all feel the same way.
I have a take on this, actually. Because I
Let's
also
hear it.
thought it was a very interesting choice that we don't get to see the invention that Isabella, Baljeet, and Buford build. But then I realized that it's actually a very appropriate choice, because for the first time, it puts us, the viewers, in Linda's shoes, not getting to see what the invention was, in the same way
that's
that
cool.
Phineas and Ferb themselves this episode don't get to see it either.
That's a good point.
I like that.
There you go.
I see what you're saying. If that were the case, I kind of wish they either did all in or not at all. Like,
Sure.
I would have liked to not even see the Backyard Gang at all and just have maybe the episode like from Phineas and Ferb's POV a bit, and Isabella's like, you gotta come see this, then it goes away. That I feel like, oh, that's a fun twist, but I don't know. I kept thinking, I was expecting them to like reveal it at one point.
I didn't mind that they didn't show it. I feel like the main implication is just that it's something really weird that didn't really work. So I feel like leaving it up to the imagination kind of works.
Nobody thought to take a picture?
I do like it when Isabella and Candace interact in the series, and like even though it isn't really a scene of them, both of them doing the but at the same time at the end was really cute.
We haven't seen both of these girls devastated like this since Mission Marvel.
Oh yeah.
Seriously.
No, I love the way they split screen it.
That was a really fun moment.
Yeah.
I do also really like how Phineas gets so excited when he's on the phone and he like hears that they made a cool invention. He's like, yes, I inspired them. I think in general, it's like, yeah, we saw at the beginning of the episode, like you said, Alex, that like Buford is like, I'm not going to do the tub when they're not here. Like we're seeing more of the characters like genuinely care about what each other are doing and what their reactions to it are. And I think that's really fun.
It's also just so surreal to see Candace calling Phineas about something bustable, and then he reacts to it instead.
Yeah, it makes sense though. Like kids
Yeah.
be having phone these days.
They do, babe.
Yeah,
They do, babe.
yeah. The kids do. Well, no, that's Linda's phone. He literally picks it up. He's like, "This is Linda's phone," or whatever. He says.
Oh, true. That's right.
Yeah. But this is the one kind of Phineas and Ferb idea I've had for a while, which I don't even know how they would pull it off. It would be very, very hard to pull it off.
They go
There's
Broadway.
There's not they go to Broadway, but basically Phineas and Ferb realizing that Linda hasn't seen anything, and then they become determined to show their mom one of their big inventions.
Wait, that's
just because
really
they want to impress her.
Alex. I don't know if you remember, but that's something that you pitched to me 4 years ago when I was a
Yeah.
guest on your podcast. That was
I've
the very
had this
first
idea
time we
for a
ever
while.
spoke. Wow, yeah. No, you've had that idea for a good bit.
I feel like the only times we ever see that is when it's like to aid somebody else in helping their mom. Like they try to like get Candace to do that birthday song for her. I don't know. I feel like that might be too far from their like MO of just doing stuff to have fun themselves in the summer.
I'd be very curious to see how they would tackle that premise, but I would also be wary that it could destroy the show. I don't know.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's like-
that's the thing about it. It's like it
Yeah.
could just completely that kind of thing. But if you would
that's the
think
appeal.
that Phineas at
Yeah.
one point would be like, oh, why hasn't like Like, Mom hasn't ever gone on one of our water slides or anything like that, you know?
That should be a
anyway.
special or a movie if they do it, because I think the emotional anguish that Phineas would go through seems worthy of a longer story.
Yeah, well, I guess we have 2 pitches this episode. Brian, before we started recording this episode, you said that there was one very funny moment from our podcast that you listened to that you wanted to point out. So I'm curious to know what it is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Alex, I do want to give you your props, because when you said in the Lord of the Fireside episode, referring to Tammy, that she's instrumental and vocal, I know it didn't get a great reaction initially, but I think it's perhaps the best one-liner of the pod so far. Is that the one you expected I was going to say? Or did you
no, I remember there was one moment that I was like, I was expecting a bigger reaction, and that was exactly it. So thank you.
Now you got it.
Sometimes we're so focused on like coming up with a yes and to the bit or like the next witty thing we're gonna say that we just don't react.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Well, you're always trying to be innovative in the moment, and I think that kind of ties into the last big point that I wanted to say, just on the understated little arc that the Haberdasher has in this episode, because like he's this guy who really loves just like inventing and tinkering, coming up with different ideas.
Good
but
segue.
It clearly, thank you. It goes beyond his creations, because like it seeps into his personality. Because something, and I really picked up on this on the rewatch of the episode, that when the Haberdasher first is like observing Perry and his action hero skills, he's like, "Oh, I've always fantasized about being in the field," which is a great like be careful what you wish for setup for when he's in danger in the end, and he has to admit, "Oh, I'm not really an action guy, and perhaps it's best to kind of maintain the status quo. If it ain't broken, no need to fix it." So it's like it's also how he initially wants to offer a whole multitude of new hat choices to Perry until he realizes the iconic fedora we all know and love is what works. So it is like this thing of like, it's a character with like highly creative mind, always searching for a new idea, coming to realize there's appreciation to be found in keeping things the way they are. I think that's just such a perfect moral for a show that not only like thrives on loyalty to its formula, but a show that when it was revived, Dan and Swampy specifically talk about Disney very much saying, "Hey, we don't want you to reinvent the wheel here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it." So I feel like this episode really epitomizes that.
It would be like if Troy Bolton decided to play basketball after all.
Speaking of great segues.
Yeah. All right. I have one last question for you all. So Dr. Doofenshmirtz is a 6 in a city of Mothmen, but in which city is he a 10?
Ooh.
There's no city that we can say that isn't going to lose us viewers. I'm trying to think.
St. Louis.
There you go. I would say just the MWCA canon, because we get a lot of comments about Sam Sapers and their performance of Doofenshmirtz.
Oh man, a city?
10 in Baltimore.
In Baltimore.
Yeah. Or Jersey City. Where does Sam live?
I don't know. Let's dox Sam on this podcast.
No, Sam has publicly said on one of our streams, like, "I'm Sam Saper. I live in Jersey City."
It's Jersey City. Yeah.
Okay. What? So you're asking what city is Doof a 10?
It could be a fake made-up city, like a city of Mothmen. It doesn't have to be an actual city.
I'm gonna go with a Lego city, because they'll be like, "Whoa, he looks like a person and not a Lego."
A moth has fallen in the river in Lego City.
What is that?
That's a reference to a man has fallen in the river in Lego City.
What is that?
What?
That's a meme.
You don't know the commercial? Oh man.
I also
I'm
don't know the
not
commercial.
big on the memes and the onlines. My roommates make fun of me constantly for how chronically not online I am.
You didn't know what Nyan Cat was.
I did not know what Nyan Cat was.
You don't know what Neon Cat was? But anyway.
Yes, a man
Brian...
falls in the river in Lego City. We all know how it goes.
Okay, come at me in the comments.
Yeah, all right. Neon Cat falls into a river. We all got it. All right. Brian, why don't you take this chance to plug yourself.
Well,
or pitch if you want. The
pitch an
writers might be
iCarly
listening.
episode.
Sure, yeah. I mean, like, if you're interested in any of the insights that I may have to share on Phineas and Ferb, you can jump on over to my YouTube channel. It is named Brian Koch, after my name. That's my name. So you can go check that out. I also work on this animated series called Inanimate Insanity, which is also available on YouTube. Some of the people on this podcast may have even made some appearances in it at a certain point, which is very exciting. So if you want to support all of us, then you should go watch it.
Thanks so much.
It's a good show.
All right. Yeah, no, I very fun.
There are kids at the summer camp I'm teaching at now who, like, one of them had like a lunchbox of Inanimate Insanity characters.
That is crazy to me.
I saw someone with like an Inanimate Insanity plush at Disneyland the other day.
Yeah.
No way. What character?
Wait, or
It was either Inanimate Insanity or BFDI.
Oh, it may have been BFDI.
Still
I
cool.
don't know.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Please hit like on the podcast. We love your comments also. It's nice to see that there are a lot of people listening and putting enough thought in that they are adding their own thoughts.
Like Brian. Thanks for listening to all of the episodes prior to this, Brian.
Of course,
Yeah.
I had to be properly prepared. Yeah.
Viewers like you, thank you, PBS, etc., except NWCA. And as we say at the end of every episode,
I hate this bit.
Cloudy with a chance of mom.
hey, I know what we're gonna analyze. The episodes in season 5. Hope it brings you laughter. This is After.